Most people believe that if you own a piece of land, you are free to grow whatever food you want on it. After all, it's your soil, your seeds, your effort. Gardening feels harmless, peaceful, even old-fashioned. But what many Americans don't realize is that simply planting the wrong crop in your backyard can put you on the wrong side of the law. Not because the plant is poisonous or dangerous, but because it is not approved. And what makes this even stranger is that many of these crops were once grown freely by your grandparents without fear, fines, or permission. Long before supermarkets and plastic-wrapped vegetables, gardens were not hobbies. They were lifelines. During the Great Depression and World War II, families survived because they knew how to grow food. Backyard gardens, small farms, and shared land kept people alive when money meant very little. No one asked for licenses. No one needed approval. If a plant could grow, people planted it. Food was freedom, and freedom was survival. As time passed, America changed. Food became industrial. Farming became centralized. Instead of thousands of small growers, a few large systems began supplying millions of people. This shift didn't happen overnight, and it didn't happen loudly. It happened quietly, through policies, regulations, and standards. Slowly, food moved out of backyards and into controlled supply chains, and that is when certain crops started to disappear from everyday gardens. Many people assume that illegal crops are banned because they are harmful, but that's rarely the real reason. In truth, most restricted plants fall into three categories. First are crops that spread too easily and don't respect borders or property lines. Second are plants that don't fit industrial farming systems because they grow differently, store longer, or don't rely on chemicals. Third, and most uncomfortable of all, are crops that make people too independent. When a family can grow food easily, cheaply, and repeatedly, they don't depend on stores the same way. They don't panic during shortages. They don't feel helpless when prices rise. That kind of independence sounds harmless, but to large systems, it's inconvenient. Controlling food means controlling stability, and stability means predictability. This is why some crops that are illegal for individuals are perfectly legal for corporations. A large farm can grow them under special permits, while a homeowner cannot. The plant itself is not the problem. Who controls it is. That detail alone should make anyone pause and think. Another strange truth is that many of these illegal crops are legal in other countries. They are grown openly, sold in markets, and eaten daily. There is nothing mysterious or dangerous about them. But in America, the rules are different. Sometimes the explanation given is environmental risk. Other times, it's disease prevention. While these reasons sound logical on the surface, they often don't explain why the same plant was considered safe for decades before suddenly becoming illegal. Your grandparents lived in a time when saving seeds was normal. Each season, they saved the strongest seeds for the next year. This practice created resilient plants and self-sufficient families. Today, seed saving itself can be restricted depending on the plant. Many modern seeds are designed to be used once. They don't reproduce the same way. This forces gardeners to return to the market year after year, buying what they once created themselves. Gardening laws are rarely discussed openly. Most people don't know they exist until they accidentally break one. Seed catalogs don't warn you. Stores don't explain the legal side. And online guides often avoid the topic completely. As a result, many gardeners unknowingly grow restricted plants, assuming that if a seed is available, it must be legal. Unfortunately, that assumption is not always true. What's unsettling is how selective enforcement can be. Some people grow restricted crops for years without issue, while others receive warnings, fines, or forced removal. This inconsistency creates fear and confusion. It also discourages people from asking questions. And when people stop asking questions, systems grow stronger without resistance. Looking back at old farming manuals from the early 1900s reveals something modern guides don't teach anymore. Those books focused on resilience, not efficiency. They taught how to grow food in poor soil, harsh climates, and small spaces. They valued diversity, not uniformity. A garden wasn't meant to look perfect. It was meant to feed you. Modern agriculture values predictability above all else. Crops are chosen not for nutrition or resilience, but for shelf life, appearance, and transport. Anything that doesn't fit this model slowly disappears. Sometimes it fades quietly, other times it's labeled illegal and erased from common knowledge. This loss isn't just about plants, it's about forgotten skills. When people forget how to grow diverse food, they lose more than crops. They lose confidence, they lose security, and they lose a connection to the land that once grounded entire communities. Many of the crops banned today are nutrient-dense, hardy, and low maintenance. They don't need much water. They don't need chemicals. They grow where others fail. In times of crisis, these are exactly the kinds of plants people would need most, yet they are the ones most likely to be restricted. History shows that food control often increases during times of uncertainty. When systems feel threatened, rules tighten. The language used is always about safety, protection, and order. But the result is often less freedom, not more, less choice, less resilience. This doesn't mean every law is evil or unnecessary. Some rules do protect ecosystems and public health. But the problem begins when laws are no longer questioned. When people accept restrictions without understanding their origin or impact, power quietly shifts. What your grandparents understood instinctively is something many have forgotten. Food is more than fuel. It's security, it's dignity, it's independence. A garden was never just a patch of land, it was a safety net. Today, many people feel anxious about food prices, shortages, and quality. They sense that something isn't stable, even if they can't explain why. Part of that feeling comes from distance. We are far removed from our food sources, and that distance creates vulnerability. Understanding why certain crops are restricted doesn't mean breaking the law. It means becoming aware. Awareness leads to better questions. Better questions lead to better systems. Silence only benefits those already in control. The truth is, these crops weren't lost because they failed. They were lost because they succeeded too well. They made people less dependent, less predictable, harder to control. And that is the part of food history that rarely gets discussed. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. You start noticing patterns. You start wondering why some knowledge vanished while other knowledge was promoted. You start understanding that forgetting is sometimes encouraged. Gardens were once symbols of resilience. Today, they are often treated as hobbies. But in uncertain times, hobbies turn back into necessities faster than anyone expects. This story isn't finished. As food systems face pressure from climate, economics, and global instability, interest in forgotten crops is quietly returning. People are searching for answers their grandparents already knew. The question is not whether these crops will return. The question is who will be allowed to grow them when they do. If you enjoy uncovering forgotten food history and understanding the hidden rules shaping modern life, subscribe to this channel. These stories aren't taught in schools, and they're rarely explained honestly. Once they disappear, they're hard to recover, and knowing them may matter more than you think.